Okay, it is. So today we're doing something a bit different, but it continues one of the segments in the video that I did. I don't remember which one, so we'll start here. So I started July, so however months ago that was, thinking about what are the types, I guess, of web apps that you can build. And how I usually explain it is there's some kind of like pendulum that is like swinging between like server apps and browser like or client apps, and this is kind of like the way I was thinking about it is that at first you have or like no server or like server that is written in some kind of like server language, right? And hopefully it just doesn't do anything on the client, and then you don't have to worry about it. But then you have kind of yeah, so I'm not sure the exact order, but okay, at some point someone said we have Gmail, let's do as much stuff as possible on the client so that our servers can do like less work. And something in between is how I put it here is like LiveView and HTMX is where you can actually do that in PHP. Like I used to work, I think, with some of this stuff that worked kind of like that, where JavaScript just asks for kind of like new HTML and you just like insert it. So you do most of your logic on the server, but it's getting triggered kind of like by client interaction. So then this like fourth generation, it's basically, but what if we want to run our SPAs on the server so that we can get pre-generated HTML, which kind of like for all intents and purposes, it's like how everyone looks at it is it's kind of like wrong. This is still like the wrong approach because SPA kind of like don't fit on the server and it causes all kind of like problems. So then the question is like, okay, can we be smarter about this kind of like hybrid approach? Can we do most of the stuff in, I would say, in PHP style, right? So you're doing server rendering, but then you still have the ability to have islands of interactivity. So instead of single page applications, you have page that has multiple applications, if that makes sense. So this way, when you render it on the server, you're mostly in kind of like server mode. And then for smaller parts that you can like either don't render at all or pre-render in kind of like Next.js style, but it's going to be like smaller, so it's going to be faster and all that stuff. But the problem is kind of like navigation. Not everyone is happy with how navigation in those kind of like server frameworks working. And here comes kind of like Marco and Qwik, and they say we have like a perfect solution for that. It will work for everyone because it's so great. But so I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this. So this is just like the way that I set up the how I feel are the generations, and like I can kind of like describe why one is like not like the other. And right, so after some point, like either we were struck with inspiration and we wrote it basically on the same day, or he saw mine and like posted 2 days after that. So I think like this is how he kind of like simplified it. So at first you have server rendered frameworks, then you have fully client rendered. I mean, I don't understand if that like includes Next or not, but let's simplify it and say there's this just server, this is just JavaScript, and this one is finally kind of like marries both of them together, which I think it's kind of like easier to sell because most of the people, they don't remember the I mean, most of the people who are in this camp, they don't remember this, and people who still use this, they have no idea what qwik is. So I think it's like it's safe for him to do something like this. Okay, so this is just to explain my kind of like generations, but where was it? So I asked Ryan on one of the streams, is like, are you interested into looking into like weirder frameworks? And on the last stream he did Corset CSS, which is I think I mentioned it on a few times on the channel before. That okay, have some issues with my bitrate. I don't know if that's really bad or it looks okay. Anyway, so Corset is, it's kind of like SPA, so it's like a client only, but it uses CSS to describe kind of like relationships between either components or like state. Yeah, it's hard to describe. But the one thing that I want kind of like this generation or like this generation of developers to look into is Phoenix LiveView or like LiveWire or all the other ones. And I think Dylan from Marco.js kind of like knows of LiveView existing, but the thing is that I work with Elixir probably like for 5 years. I haven't used LiveView. I haven't used even Phoenix. So I used something kind of like similar kind of like 10 years ago, and it was written in Erlang, but it's kind of like so old and so inaccessible. So I think I did a segment on one of my streams about that software, but I don't think it's kind of like worth it. And I basically like kind of like asked if someone knows anyone from Elixir who's kind of like willing to talk. And so I talked with this guy. He's an interesting fellow. So he has a lot of experience with Elixir, and he knows a lot about all the, how do I say it, kind of like just news in terms of like what is happening in JavaScript. So if I say, oh, you know, like how qwik does this is this, he's like, yeah, I know. So it was really cool to see someone who is like straddling this line and he who could actually talk about like more advanced kind of like topics in like both JavaScript and both kind of like server side rendered things. So he helped me a lot with kind of like some of the questions that I had, and I think right. But anyway, so I still kind of like want, I don't know, like Chris or there was some other developer. I saw her like talk. Yeah, Sophie D. Benedito. I saw her talk about like Phoenix, so I don't really like know enough people to who I can pull like from Elixir. So I think the result is that I need to try Phoenix myself. And oh no, that's not the one. Live bits. So I think I want to show kind of like demo that should make you interested in like why do I even care about something like this. Let me sign up. It's too much. Okay, signed in, so I don't know what's asking me to sign in again. Oh no, I messed up all of my screens, and now I don't know how to fix it. Now, okay. So, do you need to sign in again? No. Okay. Oh, it's playing something. You wouldn't hear it, but I did. So this is a bit of like what I'm even talking about, and like why is it interesting. So I think so here you see here is like ping. So this is how long it takes for my request to be delivered to the server. I think that's how it's counting it. And we can open like elements, and we can see that only this p tag is getting updated, but this information is actually coming to us from Elixir, so from the server side. So you can kind of think of this as being server rendered, and that's probably like the the stuff that I want to get into. But there is actually like a source code for this. So yeah, they don't have like all the proper links set up, so it's it's hard to find it. But I think if we search for ping, maybe we can find it. So you see this p tag that I was talking about? So this is written in Erlang, or sorry, in Elixir, and this is why I'm calling it server rendered, because like if I need to change this UI, I'm changing it in the server. I'm changing it in Elixir file. I'm not touching any HTML templates or I don't know, like JavaScript components and any of that stuff. This is all done on the server. But then how can we get this information from the server and we only update like one tag? And then we go to network tab and we look into like what is actually getting sent. So it's like, okay, 34. So it only sends the number. it it doesn't send even like the whole p tag. It just sends the number. So I wonder what that is. I don't know. I guess this one, but like because there are two of them, I'm a bit confused which one is which. And I mean, okay, so maybe it doesn't send the number, maybe it sends the string, but the point still stands. It's like you expect it to work kind of like like Turbolinks or HTMX, right? Where is it? So HTMX, basically like you click on the button and that button will go get some HTML and like plop it somewhere. And we are not rendering the whole thing on the server. We are just getting like just the bits that could change. So I wonder if that's, yeah. So there's like this title in this image. I mean, it doesn't change, but if it would, it would change here. I wonder why it's sending it then if it's the same value. But I can still do some things. I can go to I can open like drop downs. So this is like client only interaction. But if I search for it for, I guess, like view profile, that this one, I think it is. Right. So it's using some kind of like drop down component, which I don't really know where to look for it, but let's try drop. Oh, no. Okay, maybe it's kind of like built in. That's why we don't see it. A user counter. It has to just, does it know what to drop down to? I don't know, but you can still see that it's like it's stuff from it's stuff from the server. Oh yeah, and I guess I forgot to mention that so the problem with something like WordPress is that you're basically the more how do I say it? I mean, like, why is it important that it's like everything is server side? That means that you don't have to write it on the client side, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, I found what I was looking for. But um, if you go here, so if you have WordPress or even Astro in some sense, you're like, okay, I'm writing my app and it does stuff, but what if I want to add some client kind of like code? So what if I want to add a dropdown, right? You're like, okay, so dropdown doesn't probably like make sense on the server, so let's write it just in JavaScript, and this way it's kind of like goes maybe like a bit into like a progressive enhancement idea of like, okay, if you have a JavaScript, let's make this button like a drop down thing, and if they don't have JavaScript, okay, that's like they're okay, I'm getting distracted, but I was thinking, if I can disable JavaScript, what is going to happen? And you see that like dropdown doesn't work anymore because it requires JavaScript to interact, and maybe search doesn't work anymore. Yeah, but you can see that I can still like navigate to this kind of stuff. I can't probably like start listening and all that stuff because this is like click handlers, but basically like audio, you need to create like audio objects and all that kind of like JavaScript stuff for it to work. But maybe like upload will work, or no, it doesn't. But something might work, right? So you see that even though so this drop down idea is that, yeah, so we don't have JavaScript, you just don't have don't have drop down. But for maybe if you're writing like a mobile menu or something, that I think I was recently kind of like interested in that. I was like thinking, I wonder if they do it like on the server or on the client. So you see like here, so I have guides, components API and all that stuff. So if I click on the components API, so this thing is still open, but if I refresh, maybe not here. Yeah, so like if I click this, like this one closes, but like guides is still open. So like on the server, this section is always open, but this one is like, it's the one that I clicked on is open. But there's some client state where I can do this. So if I disable, I mean, I think you get the idea, but it's like you could probably send this state to the server, and so when I click on events, you can kind of like explain the server, oh yeah, keep this and this and this and this like open, but like close the community, for example. But it's easier on the servers, like, oh no, let's do simple thing, let's just open the one that you clicked on. So there is some client state, there's some server state, and the question is like, how do you write all of it? And so if we go back to my ideas, like usually you don't want to write it twice, and in a sense it's like you can write this drop down on the server and on the client, but you're like, okay, I don't really care, I will don't do anything on the server, and I will do everything on the client, or like I will do everything on the server, I will do nothing on the client. But someone will go and like say, okay, so why do we really like do that? Can we do the other thing? And you're like, yes, we can, but like we have to do it twice. So it's not true for Qwik, because because in Qwik you're writing both of them in the same language, in the same framework. But for something like WordPress, if you want to do this drop down behavior, you have to implement it in PHP. So you have to have a logic of like open drop down, close drop down, and not drop down. I don't know how to like menu sections, right? Something like that. So sidebar sections. So you have to implement sidebar sections on the in PHP, and then you have to implement sidebar sections in JavaScript. And this is where this is where the like this solution is lazy. Like, just don't do anything in JavaScript. And I'm talking about like generation in general. Like it's kind of like hard to talk about WordPress because it's like I don't know, it's like 20 years old or something. They did everything throughout this time, but imagine some server side, just server framework, just some PHP, index PHP. The whole framework is inside one file, and it's like, okay, this is easy because we don't have to care about JavaScript. And this is easy because we don't have to think about server side. And something like something else like Astro is like, oh no, I only do what the server side stuff does. If you want to do something on the client, like write a framework as like use React or something. And that's where so if you want to do this like side by sections, you're like, okay, I can write this in Astro and React, or I can write it just in React and pre-render React. And it's like question of maybe like speed, maybe ease of use, and you can kind of like have this lever. And the same way goes to kind of like Qwik, where you really have this lever and you can play with it as you want, because it's like you're writing the same framework, the same the same language and all that stuff. And so now what do we do with this live view stuff? Basically, they're like, okay, can we write our whole app in Elixir? And if you want to have this kind of like sidebars, like drop downs or all that stuff, let's try to keep it Elixir. But then you saw that like if I turn off the JavaScript, it will actually like stop working. And this is because this show drop down, even though it's technically written in Elixir, but it will find this so it will find like a ID drop down. So let me think, where is it? Yeah, so account drop down. So it will search for this button, and it will like basically add some classes or some CSS, I think. Where is it? Transition, set attribute. So don't really see where it's changing, but okay, so it's changing here. Okay, so some classes, so display block, and I think it should add a change like area. Yeah, I didn't see all of it, but we can imagine that it works kind of like that. So even though this is kind of like in Elixir, it's getting kind of like compiled or transformed into client side only JavaScript. So it in a sense gives you the same levers, except that I don't know how they do something like React, how they can, I don't know, like embed it or something for more complicated stuff. But at least they have this kind of like Java jQuery kind of like stuff is like okay, show this, hide this, and all that stuff. Remove attribute. Yeah. So models. I don't remember what the model is. Is it in settings? Yeah. I don't know where the model is, but you can imagine that there is. So the question now, like, have we fixed this problem of like writing app twice, writing it once in server-side language and writing it second time to add kind of like client side only stuff? And we kind of did. So the kind of like limited experience that I got from like talking about this is this stuff is getting kind of like complicated quickly. So you would have like plain JavaScript for some of the things. And so I wonder if you can see that. So there's like 4% of JavaScript. I think most of this is like actually like generated stuff. So it's like not real JavaScript. It's mostly like just connecting things to sockets and stuff. So you don't write that, you just like generate it. But there is some stuff that is maybe like not on this kind of like easy app, but something more complicated. Probably you would write something like that. So update progress, right? So this probably it, right? So for the like audio player, maybe you don't need to have it as closely connected to the server, and maybe that stuff is like easier to write. It's a bit I don't know how to kind of like think about it yet. And it has like it's called hooks. It has like lifecycle kind of like methods, but it's not really like component library. They have components, but they're like server-side components. So when you write kind of like your regular kind of like JavaScript, it still uses like IDs and stuff. So it's more closer to kind of like jQuery. So the big question, of course, is that can you have, I don't know, like Astro, but it uses this kind of like WebSocket or whatever like approach, and that's the interesting stuff. That's what I'm going to kind of like figure out. So I think my plan is to I try to get this project running. It requires like server and stuff, so I don't exec.js. Interesting. It's like, is that eval? So we're looking for selector, enable audio, and then we get attributes. Yeah, I'm not sure what that does, but I'm thinking if I kind of like said everything that I wanted to say about this or not. And I think I haven't like explained everything completely. Okay, so I I kind of like started explaining everything about Phoenix, but I have like ulterior motive. I want to try this thing, which is like LiveView.js, which implements LiveView protocol, but it uses Node or Dino on the backend. I tried to run Dino. I think it's like misconfigured or something. So, like, not everything was working. So, I guess, I guess we'll do Node, but I don't know what to do. Kind of like in what order is the best to. This is funny. 18 plus, which okay. So I think I wanna try uh, with Phoenix, and we will just see how far that gets us, and then we will try this JavaScript stuff. I actually talked on Twitter with like author of this library or framework, I don't know, and uh, I hopefully we can like have a real call, or maybe we can do like a video for the next stream. Yeah, so it could be interesting to hear his kind of like thoughts on this. Um, okay, so let's start with Phoenix. I think the last time I tried to run Phoenix was, I don't know, whenever it was released, like 8 years ago. uh, Acto allows a Phoenix application to communicate with database. Yeah, so we don't care about any of that stuff. So uh, I'm gladly doing no Acto. Command not found. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I guess we forgot some part of it. Install. Okay, so where is it going to be installed? I don't know. Let's run it here. You want to install? Yes. Okay, it installed it globally. So let's run fetch and install dependencies. Yes. Yeah, and the Primeagen, he did video about Elixir. It was short video, so he didn't get through much, but yeah. I wonder if I complain somewhere in the comments. But I think he tried to write a like WebSocket, and it's like, yeah, you can configure Cowboy, but it's like you're not going to get through all of this in like 2 hour stream. Yeah, so we will soon see how how he does all of this stuff. So you can also, I think that's the better one. Like not maybe like the better, but the one that I want. ES build. Yeah, so interesting that it's like, hey guys, we know that we need JavaScript, which is pretty funny, at least for me, and some compile warnings. So that's not great. Okay, so we have some stuff running. So this is just links, live dashboard. Okay, so does that mean it comes with LiveView out of the box? Let's do network and WebSockets. Okay, interesting. It actually opened 2 WebSockets. Okay, join to something, and Right. So this is kind of like navigation. And yeah, it's actually interesting. Like if I open some page, how much actual like data I want to get. So like, okay, so here's the page I'm going into. I'm going to ETS, and yeah, I don't know like how like 5.5 does it mean it was responding to this one? I don't know the the protocol, but it's like okay, and container. Interesting. Like how does it know where the container starts? Okay, so some HTML, some kind of like structured data, some HTML. So okay, so it looks like it's doing kind of like strings, so the like the static parts, and then it does like dynamic parts. So it's like and probably it sends some kind of like ID. So in case of like this OS data is changed on the server, you will it will send the like the update that is like okay, go to this ID and change like this string. So interesting. So this is kind of like the I was thinking that this is just like a demo of like some random data. No, it's actually like the system monitoring that you have built into Erlang. It's actually like all the like memory and stuff that our actual thing is using, and you can update it. Okay, if I update it every second, I need to restart it first. Yeah, that's a bit silly. Okay. But so it sends our interesting. So it sends more information that I would expect because like yes, like this string changed, like this string changed, but why do you send so much data? Right, so it like touches this attribute even though it didn't change. Interesting. So I wonder if that just means that it's like not completely optimized, or I wonder if that means that it's there are some limitations in how diffing algorithm works. Uh, but I think, yeah, it looks cool. It's like uh, it's completely interactive page that is done on the yeah. So I think it needs to tick once before it uses the uses this value. So interesting. It's really interesting. Configure OS data. Wow, cool. Uh, oh yeah, and you saw that like when we negated the stuff, when we go back, it like where is it? Okay, this one. Like we go back to the data and then through connects and like gets the new data. I don't know. It's interesting to me, but at least. So let's see what we have in the tutorial. Okay, so we did installing, we did created the project itself. I think all of this was done for us. So now we're starting server. We can create some migrations to stop the server and all that stuff. So okay, so what do we have in terms of live view? Views and templates. Okay, so we did up and running, right? I guess we can do this. We will probably see some kind of router. Uh, so if I want to add like LiveView or WebSockets. Where do I look for that? So this is our router. It's using LiveView router. Some channel. So channel is their WebSocket, but I don't know if it. Yeah, I think it uses like some kind of like Phoenix channel protocol. It's not plain WebSocket. So view helpers. So I wonder where the where was it? Yeah, so like dashboard stuff. I wonder where's dashboard stuff is happening. So I would assume it's router. Yeah. Okay, so we have live dashboard router in dev and test, and yes, surprising amount of stuff that is like already configured. uh, okay, and we have some kind of homepage. Oh yeah, I need to restart. Yeah, and we have some kind of homepage which is going to page controller, which is this one, and it renders index HTML. Okay, so all of this so far is not exactly what I look for. Okay, so right. So how do I create live view stuff? So live dashboard, that's from that module. Okay, so let's try to read docs, I guess. Is there some kind of like mix something command? No, not in this docs. Not in this. Okay, mix gen live. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. User, yeah. It's more like Ruby stuff that I don't really care. I wonder if can I just create like in one page? So so accounts, users. Can I do something like that? No, not enough arguments or something. Okay, so oh, you didn't have get. That's bad. Yeah, will it oh no, not this one. Will it even start after we added it? Nope. Yeah, because we don't have Acto, I think my plan is just to remove everything that will complain until it starts working. Uh, okay. I don't want to give up yet. So let's get all of this stuff. Now let's figure out what we can do with this. So what about routing? Route. Okay. Injecting. Okay, I think I'm looking for like injecting. I don't know what's the difference is, but that sounds cool. So yeah, so let's just redo this. I didn't know that it didn't do get, so yeah, so now so new hello. I think I want to spend like, I don't know, 15 more minutes on this and then go to LiveView.js, because it feels like I won't get much done with Phoenix. uh, just because of like how much stuff I need to learn first. That's kind of like my feeling right at this moment. Okay. Okay. So we will add get first, and then we will start server. Oh no, we don't actually need to start server. We need to generate some kind of users. Right, so now we see what's happening. So we added new route, and we added all of that stuff, which let's figure out what we actually need. So live view helpers. Did we add anything to JavaScript? No, not really. Do we have any JavaScript? I would assume it's like assets.js. Yeah. So as I was saying, like this file is mostly like auto-generated, but yeah, it's not that big in terms of like where it starts. So again, so we need this. So this is ecto. Okay, something LiveView related. Some kind of forms. I'm afraid it's going to do something with Acto, so I don't I don't really feel like we need it, but let's see. So we have accounts and users. So this looks kind of like viewish. We will see what we can do about it. Form components. Okay, let's do this. Show. Okay, it's fine. So this is Acto again. This is tests. We don't care about tests in this channel. And tests. So maybe we need this. Okay, so let's keep the baby stuff. Let's remove all the not maybe stuff. Okay. If someone knows faster way doing this, please let me know. Okay, so let's see if we can get it working now. Right, so the for component was the one that I was afraid the most. Okay, will it really work? Okay, so okay, so let's look for active stuff. It's like save user, counts, update user. Yeah, let's just remove this and remove this and see if that does anything. So user live index user live index. So we need to have like a user record, and we don't. And let's just remove all of this stuff. Did it start? Did I remove the right amount stuff? Okay. So, where is it? I think it was like 400. Yeah. Okay. So we know our live dashboard, and now if you go back to something router, right? Not this. There was some kind of like router, right? Yeah, so this one. Live helpers. Interesting. Why would it be live helpers? Expect it to be a router. Interesting. My problem right now is that I don't know what's the URL of like thing that I just added. How do I kind of like connect to it? And so where was the thing? Okay, this one. So it will add all of that stuff, but I still right. So this is what didn't happen, I guess. So hello web router. So in this file, I want to see. Yeah, I want to see something like this. Live users. And now here I can go to users. Okay, that's cool. So what happened? Yeah, by the way, the like debugging in Phoenix, I think that's like one of the best ones. Everyone really should take a look at this. So it's users live index. I think if I click on it right enough, it will open the in the VS Code, but maybe not. So index. Okay, so here we have list users. Yeah, so it would return like empty array for us. So no action new for, okay, so where do we get new? Apply action. Can I just remove it? No, that's unfortunate. Yeah, this is the problem is like with all of this like Phoenix Rails and all of that stuff is like it's doing too much. Why can't I just open a page and then put a template into it? Let me try to figure out if there's a way to, I don't know, remove stuff. So I wonder if I can do something like socket here. Did it compile? Probably not. So okay, it's actually a good point. So if I go to this template, I can't remember how to click on it so it opens the file, but there should be something like that. So we can go and just search this template and find where it does this routing stuff and just try to remove it. Okay, finally. So I don't know. Bye. Great. So uh so now let's go. Can I just remove all of this stuff? I think I want to just remove all of this. Yes. Great. So let's think. If I say you want a button, right? Click me. That sounds fine. So now how does this button do stuff? So it can send some kind of like messages, but I can also create some kind of component. So I think the component that I want to do is like something like counter, and I'm expecting something to crash. So like index. Okay, so inside of the template, it expects function counter. Okay, interesting. That's really interesting. So how many templates do we have? Okay. So, but like this function it's not defined inside of template. So, so let's go for Phoenix component. Okay. So my component dot greet. Okay. Interesting. Do they have a command to generate it? No. That's a bit unfortunate. Uh, so I guess I will just create a new file that is called counter.ex, and it's going to be something like this. So it will be counter, and in here we do my component dot counter. I think that's the idea. Okay, so name is not found, and if I say that name is 123, okay, it's hello 123. So it's not going to be a name, it's going to be like initial count, something like that. Okay, so first things, if the function is defined locally. Okay, I don't want to figure out like, or maybe I should. So the idea is probably if I define it here, if I define my counter here, but then do I need to use the component thing? Okay, I'm not going to do this. Okay, so attributes. So attributes are the the kind of like the props, right? So I have attribute, which is like initial count, and I wonder, oh, what's happening? Undefined function. Okay, why is it undefined? Phoenix component provides add macro. So seems strange that it would be undefined, right? Okay. Okay, so what I'm looking for is some kind of state. I can work with the fact that attributes are not happening. Slot. Okay, so we probably don't care about slot. Um, slots. We don't care. We don't care. Okay, so I'm afraid that if attribute didn't work, the rest of the stuff is probably not going to work. So I'm interested in some kind of update. Update existing key with font. Let interesting. Let seems cool, but not exactly what I'm looking for. So I know I can add JavaScript in. I mean, live render. Interesting. So what's live render? This is useful when rendering child inside of LiveView. Okay, so it's kind of like rendering components inside of other components. Containers. Containers. Okay. Staged. Attributes. Assigned to attributes. Parent assigns. Interesting. Okay. So let's look at the LiveBit source code for a bit of inspiration. So we want to do I don't know, how does nav work? Right, so which of those is doing that? All right, we had a model stuff, right? Should we test it? I forgot where our thing was. This one? Right, so is it running? Did it fix it? Yeah, it fixed it. So now if we have like model, what is going to happen? Okay, it's missing some kind of slot. So that was our live helper. Okay, so right, so it's not using that other stuff, but it's looking for some kind of slot. It's looking for inner block slot, which I guess is probably the just what you have inside. So I don't know. Let's move that button inside of model. Is that how we write it? A bit silly, but we are all for silly here. Okay. So we have a component. It has some kind of return to stuff. I guess like close button. Okay. And it just renders slot. But I can hide the model with JavaScript. And it just hides the HTML basically. Interesting. That's a bit silly, but let's imagine that it's fine. Okay, so let's look at some other examples. So I think we're looking at we probably want to look at templates, right? So there is some template and it can do stuff. So it's not using any components except for .form. And .form sounds too much like Rails for me, so I don't want to even even look into any of that. But okay, so there is some live component that is okay. So how many? Okay, just one. So there's form and there's a live component. I mean, why don't we look at this component? Right, because component doesn't have to have a template. So this one, I guess. Okay, so what will happen if I define render and if I return, I don't know, hi. Okay, so this overrides um, that template file. Okay, interesting. So update. Yeah, I think that's the interesting one. So where do we get update? Send update. Send progress. Oh, that's probably defined in JavaScript. Interesting. So how do I? Feels like it should be explained somewhere. Updates existing key with that given and socket size. So I can update count. Yeah, but how do I call it? Okay. I think the idea is we don't have any clicks here. Let's search for clicks. I wonder what Phoenix qwik means. But so let's create a button, and it has um, Phoenix qwik test 1, 2, 3, and I wonder if it, like, at what point will it crash? Because we don't have test 1, 2, 3 function. Handle event. Is it really handle event? Oh yeah, I think I need to like call it or something. Where was it? It needs to be kind of like JSX and like let's call it a great. So okay. Okay, so there is some kind of error. So right. I imagined it a bit differently. Okay, so let's go to hide mobile. So let's search for it again. And here's define. Oh, right. So maybe the helper stuff, it defines some kind of like global values. So if I have, what's that? Cannot find struct. Okay, will that help you? Right. Still don't understand how to hook into it. So Phoenix socket message event click value topic. So handle event. Why didn't I see handle event in live bits yet? Yeah, I think they're having some kind of like I mean, let's try handle event, but I feel like this is not exactly what I was going for. So, do we have handle event here at all? And we'll have handle event. Okay. So, right, because we don't have to go to the server for like clicks. It it doesn't have to do events. We can write JavaScript to work with this event, but let's try it anyway. So we do handle event test 1, 2, 3. What's the data that sends? Okay, it sends some kind of like value, which we don't really care. And we'll do just no reply. And just, yeah, just test 1, 2, 3. Okay. So what's happening? Undefined function. What? Okay. I'm starting to lose my mind. Uh, uh, okay, it should return. Okay, I don't know. Click on it. Can't handle it. Interesting. So whatever it returns is the event that is getting triggered. Okay, that explains something. It doesn't explain everything. Uh, so what if I want to do? Okay, so what's getting returned here? Yeah. Okay. Undefined function JS. All right. I think we did the alias for it. Why would it be undefined? Okay, so I think it's okay, something like this. So alias JS. Oh, what? What? Okay, so let's try this JS JS stuff, and then here it JS. Does that make sense? Not really. And define parent. Sure. Do. Sure. Okay. Uh, it couldn't do JS stuff. But yeah, I wanted to do something like this. Yeah, let's go. Let's say that this is what I wanted to do. Okay, so this part is working, but the IO inspect stuff didn't. Uh, what that means. Okay, so Phoenix LiveView.js hide model. Okay, so what do we have except for hide? Can we do console log or something? JS dispatch, click. So what's the dispatch? Events. It sends events. Interesting. Toggle. So we know already like show hide add class. Yeah, so add class sounds fun. So let's add class to body, something like that. And if you return this instead of basically like that. So if we return this, then we won't be calling this event. And right. where's the body? Yeah, class model. So when I click on it, it shows. And this is client only interaction, so it doesn't require server. And I wanted to look into network tab and see of what is getting sent. It's like nothing. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop with Phoenix here. Like we saw that we can send, right? I think we didn't do props or something like that, so we didn't cause like component to re-render. But I think the idea is that uh, if we do, will that work? It's like it's sending me it multiple times, so, or showing me it. Variable name assigns, right? I mean, I can, I can do variables. I don't know if that will work, but oh, there's some broken. Interesting. Okay, so oh, this is not how I imagined it to work. Wow, that is crazy. Right. Okay. Um. Anyway, so we wanted to, right, but that explains why we could use variables. Uh. So anyway, we wanted to send test 1, 2, 3, and like it's getting sent. And now we go to that update stuff. That the wrong file. Yeah, I'm a bit lost in terms of what file we were looking at. Where's the file? Is that, yeah, update. Yeah, so can we here update the socket? Do we need to return it or something? Oh yeah, let's say that this is how it works. Okay, it's, there's some sort of error. So E not found in. Okay. So what's a key then? If I would set, I don't know, users. Okay. And so do we use users anywhere? I think we do. So let's say it's count, and it's like 10 first. Okay, it's not working. Oh yeah, yeah, because we still use users. Okay, and now let's go to network. Okay, so the response was okay. So interesting. but it doesn't cause anything to re-render. And if I had like a div with the count, okay, something. Okay, so I think what is happening is that I need to do, where's my count? It feels like update should work a bit differently, so trying to, so it's doing assign. So how does assign work? Force assign. So what's the return value of assigns? Yeah, so it feels like I should do something like this. Socket equals update. Yeah. So we finally made it. And now instead of just okay, it returns what the value that needs to be set. And supposedly, if I have like a huge warrant piece here, like because it's a static part, each click is only going to update this value. So in a sense, we are doing like React server components, right? Okay, I'm actually glad that I could do all of this. I thought it's going to be basically impossible, but we made it. Do we miss anything? No, I think like for this exercise, this is like exact amount of stuff that we could possibly do. So now let's switch to should I save this link somewhere? So now let's do LiveView.js, which should be kind of like the same stuff, but with with less Ruby magic. So hopefully we can start a bit easier. Okay, so it asks us for latest node. Download their repo. Okay, let's do that. And okay, so going to be installing packages. Right, so it's complaining about Node. Let's figure out how we can do Node. I always forget. So Volt install Node 18 and Volt pim, I think. Okay, so now let's install again. Now, hopefully it doesn't complain anymore. So what do we have in Turbo? Format, dist, test, publish. Probably don't need any of that. Maybe I need dist, but okay, so So if we go to that directory, okay. I don't know if I needed to do that, but maybe I did. I don't know how npm works. I used like yarn for too long. So okay, I guess I did. So npm start. I don't know, something is happening. Okay. Does that mean anything? Okay, it started on port 4001 because probably we used that one for Phoenix. Okay, so we have some stuff. Counter. We already know how the counter works, right? Go to network, F search for WebSocket. So where is it? One, not the side. Okay. Okay. So now if you click on the plus, it sends an event. The event is status okay, and diff is 1. Okay, so that's fine. So what we do next is, okay, I should probably open this, and I should probably, no, it's fine. So now let's go back to the to this guide, I guess. So create a new file. Okay. I think they have new command now. Create new file. Oh, I guess it doesn't work. Okay, so create LiveView. Okay, just created your first live view. It doesn't do much, but let's get it running in the browser. Let's go to example routes, I guess. And let's do import something from live view flow. Okay, so what we're importing, hello live view. Okay, so here in the router we add hello live view. Okay, so that means that here we can do hello now, but I guess I closed it. Okay, so we have hello world, and interestingly enough, it sends it again. Okay, I'm a bit confused about that part. Like, why would it send event? Phoenix join. Okay, so it's just because it's joined it. Okay, that's fine for now. So HTML that prints hello world. If I print something else, actually live reloads like Phoenix. That's great. So is that it? Wow. Compared that to what we did in Elixir, right? Okay. So now, okay, we got running, but it's not interactive. Let's make it more interesting by adding a button. Okay, so this is still hello TS. It's still create live view, but now instead of just render, we add mount and events. Okay, following so far. Okay, so we have this context, and this is our assigns, and our event is changing the state on the or something happening behind the door, but so we are changing the state on the server with this event. Interestingly enough, so there I used like a function syntax and stuff, but in the end we decided that it was bad idea. But here it works the same. Okay. Right, so my question is, if I define a function toggle here, will that one going to be called or not? Because that's how Phoenix stuff worked. No. Where does this go? Oh. Okay. I'm not sure who who is doing that. Wonder if we do any of this stuff on the server. So when I click, this stuff is getting run on the server. Oh, I see what's happening. So, oh, okay. So, yeah, it would have to be like that. Then toggle is not defined. Okay. So this is just a string, and this is not going to work. Okay. And this is the event that's getting sent. Okay, that's perfect. So what do we have next? When you refresh the page, it will work. That's great. So mount, render, handle params, handle info, context push server, upload, lifecycle. Okay, set mouse, handle params, render. Right. So it's actually cool. I think like I think this website has like a better documentation of what is actually happening compared to like Phoenix LiveView, which is kind of like started the trend. But Interesting. So WebSocket join, interactive shutdown. Right. So I think where I'm going with this is that this stuff is running on server. uh, I wonder if there's like a production version. So right, and this is like JS stuff. Right. So this is what I was trying to write. Uh, let's do it. I mean, we'll probably just create a new button. And we need JS from. Okay. So yeah, so this button doesn't call the server, this client only button, and the way that it happens, it's using this Phoenix Phoenix, how do I say it, protocol, I guess. Right, so it toggled it toggled itself. Okay. Hide push. What's the push? I mean, it's not that important, but um, I feel like I need to. Maybe I needed like a demo. So right, so the first demo is uh, clicking stuff. I wonder if we have time. Oh yeah, we can look through this actually. Hide options. Where's the hide itself? Okay, so add class, remove class, show hide, toggle, attributes, remove attributes, dispatch, and push. So pushes given event to the server. Okay, so it's the same stuff, but programmatically. So I can do probably like if something, then something. Right, and I can to string it programmatically as well. So what's the difference between dispatch and push? Dispatches an event from target to the DOM. Okay, so it's going to be like just JavaScript custom event. Okay. Okay. Not much. I was thinking that maybe it could do more, but that's probably like enough actually. And it has to probably kind of like right. So the other thing I was thinking, can it be just click, right? So can I write console log 123 so where's, oh yeah, preserve the state. Yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't preserve the client state, but it preserves the server state. So like in the WebSocket stuff. So this didn't work because it's on click. Right. So and theoretically we can also do like script console log 123, right? So that means that we can do stuff. So I wanna figure out routing. I think routing is the interesting part as well. So I think it's like redirect or so. What's the params? Since the previous example did not use handle params, will defined. Okay, so it's params name. All right, I think they're talking about like these examples. Should we just maybe use their auto print prices? Okay, auto prints print. What? What? Interesting. Okay, so that's the same stuff that Phoenix does. Oh, but this one is probably like for the okay. Okay, so the question is, where does it get all of this stuff? And we can probably just go to GitHub, and I think it like examples print, yeah. So we're starting from render, and it uses this stuff from context. Okay, so it uses server to do all of this stuff. Okay, so it does changes this, it changes cost, and it probably changes some kind of like, yeah, image attributes. Okay. Mm. Mm. Yeah, so value is client side. It's not saved when I restart, but it's like it's not destroyed. Okay, so photo size is from the thing. So this is just a function. So and photo size index is from the context as well. So I guess once the change, okay, when a form change, send update event. Okay. Right, and I guess it ignores the event. It just does it for every event. Okay. But the event has this value because it's like it's a form event. It will send the value of the form, and we just recalculate new state and store it into assign, and assign calls render. Okay. Right. It's a bit silly that right. It's funny because I think this code is why we have use effects instead of on mount and component did update, right? Component did mount the component. How is it? Component did mount and component did update. So this is exactly the this is exactly the reason why we have use effect right now. This is interesting. Cool. What are we interested in? So, servers. What does it mean, servers? Okay, so that is actually interesting because it does navigation. And I'm really interested in navigation. So we render live batch. What's a live batch? It's a silly name for a thing. And it's funny that it's because it needs to support kind of like Elixir stuff. Like all the names are Elixir names. Okay, so it doesn't have docs, I think. Anchor body and options. Batch helper to class name. Okay, this doesn't really explain what it does, but so we have servers and it has select a server. Then when we do navigation, I guess like our URL changes and our server ID could change. And then it causes. Okay, so page title is Elixir command and assign as. Okay. Right. So I don't know what that stuff does. Patch. And select the server can change over time. Okay, so the thing that I was interested in, it's kind of like it's hidden. Okay, so link body selected. It shows the link with the server name, but right, it is actually a link, but it's a button instead of inside of a tag. And we don't have like hrefs anywhere. It's just like it's implied. Okay, so basically I want to find cool. Does it scale? That's always the question, isn't it? Right, and now if we disable JavaScript, it's going to be a full page navigation. Yeah, the cool part about websites like Astro or IELTS or qwik and stuff is that their docs is written in their own framework, but this framework has docs written in Docusource, which is good because it's like it's probably easier for them to write, but this way I don't know like a thing that I can benchmark. And in this sense, I was like asking, can I have a production website? So if we do npm build, maybe start. Okay, so it has built. It's just npm is useless. Okay, so we have a build, and I don't know how to do Node, so I'm just hoping I can do something with this. Okay, so this is hopefully production build, and we can run it in incognito so that we don't have any like plugins or stuff. And we go to network, and we go to resources. Okay, great. Right, so our index.js wasn't found. Cool. So what does that mean? Okay, so here are the routes. Well, I guess I'm looking for Express. Does it do require something? Right. So I'm guessing all of this stuff is server-side code. LiveView server and stuff. Router. So okay, so here there's like app use. That's the Express thing, I hope. So there's some LiveView code, but then it tries to load this index.js, which I'm thinking is was it client? Right, so I think that's that file. So what will happen if we create JS and js.index.js? Now we start Node. Yeah, I also tried this project with Dino, and it failed much earlier than than with Node. So I don't even know if it like how to get it to working state. So this is a long file. So because we have routing, I'm guessing that I can do something like this. What's happening? I think this file is like too big. My editor is freaking out. I should probably edit it in Vim or something. I think it's so big that even Vim is like complaining. Okay, so app.get JS index.js express serve static file. Use express static. Maybe I should do this then. Okay, so if I create public, if I move my JS stuff into public. Okay, if I start node again. Okay, because it's compiled, I need to write some other names. Okay, I was going to look at how much memory it's using, but then again, it needs to work for that. So start clean, copy this, publish. Okay. So let's look at dev mode. Let's just hope it's not much bigger than the okay. That was actually not a bad idea, but let's go to network, and it's 200 kilobytes total. And out of those, the document is 3 kilobytes, the index.js is 200 kilobytes. So yeah, so that's the part that I was hoping is going to be smaller. I mean, it has to be the live. I wonder if we can go to live bits and measure there, right? That's the website that's written in in Phoenix, so it should be kind of like representing the actual sizes and stuff. So here, page is 5 kilobytes, and JS is 45. I think that's like 45 and unzipped. No, 45 gzipped. That's not small. I wonder. Yeah, and most of it it's going to be probably just the framework itself. Yeah. Reestablishing connections, right. So reduce JavaScript, yeah. Yes, I agree. It's too much JavaScript. Yeah, it's interesting. As I said, I was talking with Thomas, and he was like, those frameworks with like JavaScript, they're like they don't care about performance. But it's interesting that like a lot of modern JavaScript frameworks, they're actually going to be like smaller than this bundle size. So yeah, but the main idea. Okay, I think I wanna I wanna start with kind of like with why I even care about this. So people don't want to write apps twice, and writing it on a server was great, but we want to write on the server and for it to still be interactive. So it's like if I have JavaScript enabled, I can click through this stuff, and I'm doing single page style navigation on server kind of like first website. So this website, in terms of like user JavaScript code, it has basically 0, but I'm here doing SPA style navigation with thing that is completely rendered on the server. And if we're talking about transitional apps and all of that stuff, that this is it. Like if I had a player playing, right, like on live bits, where is it? Oh no, I forgot to know. Okay, so here, so if I have a player here and it's playing, it's going to be continue playing. It's okay, I need to press listen first. Okay, now it plays, and I can hear it, but you can't. And I'm navigating through pages and it's playing. If I refresh, it will lose my state and all that stuff. But this is a transitional app. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't call it. And in terms of like, oh no, our users have so little resources, they're like they're like on a mobile phone. None of this is doing kind of like excessive JavaScript. It's the rendering is happening on the server, and all the parts that are static, or I mean, it's funny to say that like audio player is static, but it's like it's not changing between pages, so we can keep it running, and we can only send like just the exact bits that we need. And so if I go here and if I navigate, this thing looks kind of like exactly how React server components would do it. They will render on the server. They will generate some kind of like VDOM stuff, which is in my mind, this is as kind of like efficient or probably more than VDOM. It just points you to like, okay, find this thing, like replace it, find this thing, replace it, and so on. And it's not going to be like faster than this. Like, this is exactly the stuff that needs to be changed, and this is exactly the stuff that gets gets changed. So you're not writing your app twice. You're only writing it on the server. You're not paying kind of like hydration costs, because basically every kind of like button, every link, it has like all the like in quick terms, that would be kind of like linked to a bundle, right? That needs to be downloaded. But here it's kind of like push event and all that stuff. So it's kind of like serialized event. So if it says push, and that's the stuff that we are sending to the server on this when this button is clicked, and the server will send us the kind of like all the data that we need, all the maybe like events or like some custom JavaScript that needs to be running. I didn't play with JavaScript much on this stream, but we can imagine that you can like send custom events and all that stuff, and download more bundles, download more JavaScript if you need it. But initial page load is just string concat. Like especially in Elixir, what they do is templates are compiled into basically binaries. So when the new request comes, it just like grabs I don't know, like template from like binary or like memory, so it's really efficient. It's not even like a string. It's just like a pointer to the memory. So in terms of like to send it to the buffer or like a socket, it's really cheap to send it. So it only will pick up the stuff that is like dynamic for this request, and you're getting static HTML. If you turn off your JavaScript, your app can continue working. If you write everything properly with like forms and stuff, you can build completely server side kind of like first, and server side like working without JavaScript side. But then if you have JavaScript, if you have WebSockets, you can bring as much interactivity as you want. The only and it's going to work exactly like React server components would. So if the server is slow, your interactions are going to be slow. If you need to do some interactions before you want to talk to the server, you can do that. Basically, when we are talking about like this push event, so this will send the message to the server, but before sending the message, you can go ahead and like add a class or mark it that is like pending, or like on this website, they're doing this like progress and progress. Oh yeah, I remember that library. So I think that, yeah, they're just adding like a class to show that it's pending. So you can do all of this stuff. It's really it's in a sense is like as flexible as you want, and what you're paying is like your server needs to send you the reply of like what needs to be done next. And the difference, I forgot who said that on Twitter, but like the difference is that on in React server components, you will send REST requests, but here you're sending WebSocket events. And the problem is like, oh no, WebSockets are so like expensive, but it's mostly like for Elixir especially, it's like it's not kind of like true. So they're not that expensive, and I think for Node it's probably like passable as well. And the difference there is depending on your app, if you're really kind of like deep into it and like you're interacting with everything, it's more expensive for you to initialize your like session for every like REST request than to keep like some state in the memory. And if we're talking about state, like this app basically has like maybe like ID in the state. I forgot, but if it's like a counter, right? It's going to be like just this number. It's going to be like 8. That's the oldest state that you're storing, and like open socket and all that stuff. So but it's so what is more expensive, to store 8 in the memory or to save it in database and authenticate your user for each request and all that stuff? So I think it would be cool if it was just like an option, or basically depending on the interaction or something like that, you can choose like one or the other. But I think once you're doing WebSockets, it's kind of like hard hard to convince you that you need to support REST as well. It's probably going to be easier to like convince React people to use WebSockets than or LiveView people to use REST. But I wonder if that's already kind of like solved the problem. Okay, what else? So when I look at this, I think about React server components. The ergonomics in React server components are going to be a bit better because you're writing your whole app in React, and it's really easy for you to take a like existing component that say, okay, we can get rid of like these few lines and we can render it on the server into like static part now, where in Phoenix, depending on kind of like interactions that, I mean, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I think the example that I want to show is that like here, if we want to toggle a class, I need to create this like special object of like, oh yeah, please toggle, where is it? Like, please toggle like this ID. It's not, it's not as nice as having like a signal, right? That you're writing in, and it's not as easy to follow like this string IDs compared to like a ref, right? That is that you can use like TypeScript or something to understand. Okay, so we're changing it here, and it's applied here or something like that. So this is really kind of like in terms of ergonomics, this is really like not modern way, but it's doing, and it was doing for like 10 years what React server components are hoping to do soon. So that's kind of like why I think it's important to think about this. And I see that how do I say it? And I think in some sense, all of the problems that like Phoenix people have to solve is like, oh no, how do we account for like user losing the connection? How do we do this, that? It's probably the same issues that people who are going to be writing with like React server components in like in a few years will have to figure out. And in terms of why Phoenix or this LiveView.js, why it has I guess like what it has that other frameworks don't. And I think my kind of like how I view it is I started with PHP. So for me, kind of like server rendering, it was like a norm, right? You want a form, you just print a string that is a form. And SPAs made sense for me because you're like, okay, so now imagine that you're doing a server, but you're doing it on a client. And that felt fine. The Next.js and like, oh, but we can server render React, that felt kind of like out of place for me. In a sense that it's like, yeah, but this doesn't work exactly like the way that normal servers do. In normal servers, you do server side part and you add like a client side part, and it's like, yeah, you can use effect or something that's like to hide part of your part of your app until like until you're loaded in the browser. But it's like here I have like a clear control of like, okay, this is going to be run, this will cause like server view render, this will cause to change some like client state. And ergonomics of this are not great, but the, how do I say it? The intent is there. It's like React server components with like .server .client. This is like the question of intent and like what data needs to be where and all that stuff. And there's something kind of like making sense in all of this. It, like, for me, as someone who used I know that like new developers, they just start with React and they don't know like what what server side. So I don't think that server side rendering is a thing. I think there was server rendered websites like PHP, and I think there were client rendered websites like Angular and React. And then someone decided that like this server side like pre-rendering, or like I forget how it was called, but like you could buy like a product that will go crawl your website, save it as HTML, and like and serve that to like Googlebot or something like that. This kind of like this made sense. But like Next.js is like, can you imagine running your SPA in the server and getting a good result? Is like, no. And okay, so I think I'm talking in circles, but there is something in this. There is something in like making it explicit. But the problem is that you are writing your app twice. If you have like a drop down that needs to have a server side state, and you have like a client side state, right? Or just some kind of like class on this drop down, it becomes silly, because you need to kind of like coordinate all of this stuff, and maybe you need to really kind of like write it twice. And different people have different like answers for the writing it twice. So for example, Remix, they will tell you, okay, write your React app, well, not like it's a Next.js app, but like it's a server rendered app. And we will have utils that will generate kind of like appropriate client-side code for you, so your app behaves kind of like SPA. So so like doing server apps and generating SPA version of them kind of like makes more sense than doing SPA app and then trying to generate server rendering for them. And I mean, probably both of them make sense, but one of them feels more natural, and one of them feels more performance oriented. It's like, yeah, there's probably a way to turn like what React generated into strings, compared to, okay, let's generate a string and like let's figure out the rest later. So it's, one of them just like feels more performant, or like more oriented in terms of speed. And now I'm looking at all of this and thinking, okay, what if Solid? What if qwik? What if Marco? It's like, what this kind of like lacks in terms of like, if this was the best thing ever like created, everyone would have known about it and everyone would use it. But it clearly has its own kind of like limitations and its own kind of like developer experience shortcomings. But it did React server components like 10 years ago, and and React is trying to go kind of like into this direction, and I wonder where they kind of like meet, and I wonder what kind of like similar problems they will have. So the like 50 kilobytes initial load of JavaScript is not zero. It's funny how like Phoenix LiveView kind of like evangelist, I guess, they will say, wow, this is so much like greater than React. And yeah, but like, have you tried Solid or like Preact or something that is like smaller than React? And there are kind of like the similar problems that exist here with hydration. Like this button can only work when JavaScript is turned on. So if we're talking about this, where is it? If we're talking about this demo, if my JavaScript hasn't hydrated, I can click on this and it will just like turn into full page navigation. But if I'm on a counter page and if I click on this button and JavaScript is not loaded yet, it's not going to work. So the same kind of like questions that qwik asks about, like, so how do we remove hydration? How do we make our app like instantly interactive? They're kind of like still there. And the question is like, what is going to be more efficient in terms of interaction? Like 1 kilobyte in size qwik, where you press the plus and then like the 5 is updated, and you don't download much of the code except for like if plus is clicked, like update the counter to like a bigger number, or Phoenix LiveView that needs to hydrate 50 kilobytes of JavaScript, that needs to connect to WebSocket, that needs to initialize some state on the server, that needs to generate the event, render kind of like VDOM kind of like style on the server to generate like the smallest possible div and like send it over the wire. So it's like, okay, which one is going to be which one is going to be working faster? But then again, what if I don't have this 5? What if it's really some kind of like maybe each time I click on this button, I'm generating the 9th digit of pi, right? That's a more interesting question. It's like, do you store the pi on the server? Like, at what point do you like calculate it? Do you send it the whole thing to the client so that the interaction is going to be faster? And so in this sense, I think Phoenix has like an advantage in terms of, okay, so my network is kind of like slow, or my computer is slow, but on the server I have like a bigger resources to do some like complicated stuff. And the language that I talk with the server, it doesn't have to be, I don't know, GraphQL or something. It can be kind of like components that are right on the server, right? So this is when I look at this, I'm basically I see like React like class-based components. It's really similar. Instead of set state, it's like socket assign. So but this socket assign is working on the server, so server can include like bigger libraries or spend like more CPU resources on calculating stuff. And this is things that I think modern frameworks, they're like, oh, let's make like a separate route for all of those interactions, and like our router loader will do all of this stuff. So it's like, it's not as fine-grained. Here I can have like many possible like events that I can send, and there are like more like Redux actions or like X state, kind of like, I forgot how they call it, but let's say actions, instead of like just like navigation. Because navigation is usually kind of like less fine-grained, right? I could have kind of like more state this way than just the state that I can save in the URL. And if we're talking about WebSockets, I don't have to like drop stuff from memory between requests. So if I calculated the pi, it's like, okay, let's keep it in memory for like next interaction. We don't have to download it again. And like LiveJS, which is like Next.js kind of like alternative for Dino, like in the first versions, they just had like use Dino. So you can kind of like call like any like random code that you want on the server side. And yeah, React like conditional hooks and stuff, it's not it's not as easy, but the idea is kind of like still there. I think like Solid and some other ones, they have like similar APIs where you're like, okay, let's just I mean like TRPC, right? Let's call like a random function on the server. That's kind of like the approach of this stuff, is like, instead of being like event here, it's like it's some TRPC like call, right? It's like it has a name and parameters and stuff. So I think it's a bit sad that this thing is kind of like ignored. No one even knows that it exists. And yeah, I think like developer experiences, I don't think you can like show this to any like modern React developer and they will be like excited to try this. You can show this probably to kind of like Astro developer, right? who is not using maybe like frameworks, and they're just like writing web components or just like inline kind of like scripts. Maybe for them it's going to make kind of like more sense. Okay, so where I'm going with this, I wonder if we will see React Server components with WebSockets. And since SolidJS like copies everything that React does, but kind of like better or faster, I wonder how kind of like solid server components will look like. And is there a way to do, I don't know, like WebSockets kind of like API that preserves the state? And the second question that it kind of brings is how important for everything to be JavaScript. I had this talk with Dylan from Marco.js team of like he was showing like Marco version, first version of Marco or something like that, and it's really close to kind of like to this. It's mostly based on kind of like templates that are just basically like client and the server share templates between each other. So if you have a component, like it could either be rendered on the server or on the client. So and like client behaviors, not like exactly this, but in some sense it looks kind of like this. And yeah, I wonder if we I wonder if we decided to stop doing that too early, and maybe there was sense in doing it like that, with like explicit kind of like server side and client side separation. And the most interesting part about kind of like this Phoenix LiveView for me is that it's written in different languages. So you're using Elixir on the backend and JavaScript on the front end. And I think there is like a demand for that, right? So everyone is hoping that like eventually you can do WASM, and like you can write your whole application in Rust and you just compile it to JavaScript. But I wonder if it makes sense to have stuff in in different languages. And I showed that before, but there's like a there's a framework called Bod, and the idea is that it's doing Go on backend, and it's doing I forgot. So which one was it? I think Svelte. I think it does Svelte on the front end, but the idea is that it's not doing it this way. It's doing it in a more kind of like old-fashioned. So once you go to the route, Go can kind of like compile all the data and then uses Svelte just as like a template. So it basically like, okay, so here's like in the context, or here the like kind of like the props that we generated on the in Go, and we're passing it to kind of like to the view level, right? So it's kind of like more like an MVC thing. And instead of doing handlebars, or I forgot how they were going, they were called, like instead of doing templates, kind of like string templates, you're doing like render to string with like a framework. So I wonder if it was kind of like more granular and if it was more like this, where you can use Go for more, right? Not only to do database requests. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's kind of like where I'm going to leave this. I was going to mention just like one more thing. The question of service workers. Because in a sense I was like, oh no, we don't want to write our app twice, once on the server, once on the client. But there is also a story of service workers, and you don't want to write your app 3 times. That seems like too much. Because you can create your like offline kind of like behavior for your website, but you have to use service workers, or you can render your app in service workers as well. And because it's running on like off thread, it could cause like less stutter and stuff. So it's like your main thread is free to do like smooth scrolling while service worker is rendering something. And that brings me to the idea, will that model work for service workers? If instead of sending events over WebSockets, I'm sending events to service worker, and service worker could have, I don't know, like some state. It could generate that kind of like VDOM style div, like Phoenix does. Maybe that and like that div is going to be like rendered really fast on the front end. It's like, is that good idea? But then for that approach, you can't run like Elixir on your server worker. So it has to be it has to be JavaScript. So, or maybe you can compile it to Wasm. But I think for Elixir, it's probably like kind of like prohibitively like big. So you won't probably be able to do this. But then the question comes, I'm like not writing your app 3 times. Can I have something like this, but maybe like this one is like server click, this one is like service worker worker click, right? And this is like JavaScript click. Is that like a is that a place where we want to live? do we really want to go into something like that? And what are the kind of like limitations? If we're talking about WebSockets, the biggest problem with them is like you can like lose connection or something like that. But like for service workers, your like computer or whatever like connected, they can have service worker like not supported or not enabled and all that stuff. And it's like, right, so like you especially don't want to write your app 3 times if the third app is like you don't know if it's going to be used or not. And going back to like that kind of like next idea of like, let's generate server code based on client code, or remix idea, let's generate client code based on server code. Can any of them generate service workers? So it's like maybe I write my code once on the server and then I get kind of like service worker and client code for free. I think what Qwik does is they are probably like the ones that are most inclined to do something like this. I think their idea is to it sounds like they want to write their app 4 times, but you write your app, they during the build step they compile it, and the intention is to run this compiled app on the server. Then this app is kind of like is resumed on the client, but in a sense you want to make it so you do as much stuff as possible during compile time. So like everything that could be static, you need to like put it into a string and stuff like that. So it's like you want to do as much stuff as possible during build step. You want to do as much as stuff as possible that wasn't possible in the previous step on the server, and then on the client, basically, in a sense, you're doing this like this like push event and all that stuff. It's like your client code is just creating like events for server to anticipate. That's probably how I would put it. Is like you expect users to like click this button and like something should happen. Like click this button and something should happen. So maybe what Qwik is missing is this sort of like RPC stuff where you can build app again, or like maybe you can server render it again. And in the same way, maybe you can like generate the service worker code for it as well. Yeah. So yeah. So I wonder if they are going to build kind of like the first who can crack all of this stuff up. And the interesting story is like again Solid who started from client, so they're more like a kind of like Next.js. They're like, okay, we're starting from like being a client, being the fastest like client side framework, but we need to do something for the server. And it's like, okay, maybe we can write basically like a separate separate compiler for the server. And I wonder if they're going to switch basically like their approach from kind of like client first to server first. And I wonder if they're going to go into qwik territory, or I don't know, qwik approach. And will that one include something that is kind of like React server components? And is it possible to have WebSockets and stuff? I think the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I asked on Twitter once, is like, do you think I should probably like switch to my like full view or something. I just showing like the same picture for like a half an hour. But wouldn't it be cool if when you have multiple users like working with your server, and you know that like this the way that how I see it is like in Elixir, when you work with templates, they're like they are compiled into like literally like binaries that you can like send to the socket right away. And that sort of stuff is now in JavaScript is done like kind of like during the build step. You can generate like parts of the templates, and we actually like saw how even like LiveView.js does it, and with strings, yeah. And the question then becomes is like, if I have say I forgot. So I have like a hero component that should show some like image and text, but it's not ready during the build time. You need to go to like some API and like check what's the latest version is. You can render it like this component into a string and like save it for, I don't know, like next 10 minutes or something like that. And is that like good idea? Or like, where do you find this like borders where you can save it? Or it's like, okay, if we have a like header or like menu or something like that, it's the same one but for different users, like the username is changing. Like, can I have the same component and just like render it with different props? How much kind of like stuff I can preserve between requests? And like for WebSockets, it's like, yeah, for this session, just like save as much stuff as possible, and like when new updates are coming, don't do anything that you already done. It's like just do the new stuff. And again, I think someone from qwik said that, yeah, we're like thinking about it or wanted to do something like this. So this is also, I think, one of the things that are like kind of like Phoenix things. So what I kind of like didn't play with are like components, and I don't know if they have components in LiveView.js, because it's just like components were added to Phoenix, I think, pretty recently, and maybe they just like didn't have time to do this. But you saw that like how in LiveView I can do like, instead of button, I can do like dot button, and that that button will have its own kind of like maybe even state, maybe props and all of that stuff. So yeah, we couldn't play with that with LiveViewJS, but maybe that's a like interesting. Maybe that's an interesting abstraction, and I wonder how far into so we know that like React is going to be looking like LiveView with React server components, but will Phoenix look more like React with, I don't know, it's like it already looks like React like class-based components, but how far will that kind of like go? How much of this we're going to see on the server? Yeah. Okay, I wanted to do the stream for such a long time, and I think like I'm streaming for 3 hours now. So yeah, I probably can't do anymore. And okay, so if you watched until this part, I don't know, say hi. I'm like the thing I miss the most is that because I stream at night, like no one is usually in the chat, and usually even videos that have like a lot of views, they don't have a lot of comments. And I don't know if you're if you are listening to this part, I don't know, say hi in comments, and maybe like write to me on Twitter or something like that. I had how this is called, it's like Not Gonna Lie or something like that. There was like app for like anonymous questions, and I lost my phone that had that app, so I can't read those anymore. But yeah, you probably won't know about this because I already removed the link. But I think that's it.